The older I get, the more I realize old games were giving us something modern life slowly takes away. The wonder, the imagination, and the curiosity, the feeling that life could become something bigger. I think games like Pokémon protected that part for me for a very long time. Which sounds dramatic, but honestly so did Groudon Awakening when I was 11 years old. A lot of people talk about gaming like it's this thing that destroys your life. And look, if you completely lose yourself in escapism, that absolutely can happen. But when I look back, they shaped the way I saw the world. And reading expanded that even further. Honestly, I think that combination changed the trajectory of my whole life, which is slightly ironic considering my parents probably thought I was just wasting time catching virtual animals. I think one thing people massively underestimate, especially if they didn't grow up gaming, is how magical the older games felt, especially before everything became hyper-optimized dopamine extraction. These old Pokemon games, they felt like actual worlds. There was a certain atmosphere to them, and I still remember being a kid playing Pokemon Emerald at night, being at Route 119 and hearing the rain, the music, and having fun in Fortress City in the treehouses. Somehow, a Game Boy Advance soundtrack had more emotional depth than half of modern Netflix. And all these pieces, they felt massive in my imagination. I do think that matters more than people actually realize, because when you're young, these fictional worlds, they can really shape your inner world and the way you think, and they make life feel a lot bigger. I remember the dreams of flying around on a real-life Flygon, which is still to this day my favorite Pokemon. And I think that's important when your real-world responsibilities are mostly homework and not eating glue. The way I see it is that Pokemon is basically self-improvement for children. You start as a nobody, you leave Little Root Town with almost nothing. If you're playing Pokemon Emerald, that is. Your Pokemon are weak, you slowly improve, you build a team, you encounter adversity, you explore, you level up over time. That's literally delayed gratification. And you learn about progression, which paths you need to take in game, and also with your moveset. That's a part of identity building. Which team do you want to build? And what kind of types are you drawn to? What kind of designs are you drawn to? All of this is basically exploring which kind of hobbies you like during your adult life, what do you want to study, what do you want to work as you grow up. It's kind of priming us for that, and I think that's a really, really beautiful thing. That's self-improvement, and I think a lot of us absorb these ideas subconsciously. I myself have been breeding perfect IV Pokemon and really looking into how to optimize EV spreads and all this kind of stuff. And when you're that competitive in a game, there's no way that this doesn't translate into the way you think in the real world. And just as I was putting 247 hours into my Pokemon Sapphire save file, it really set the standard for how I approach my long-term goals now, which is either inspirational or proof that I had an autism level of commitment at age 10. But then fast forward to as I got older, I started to learn the power of reading outside of my university curriculum, because reading gave me a lot of perspective, because books were one of the first things that made me realize, wait, there are completely different ways to live life, especially once I started reading self-improvement, psychology, business books, and some philosophy books and some biographies. All those kind of things. You suddenly realize that most people are living on default settings. School gives you one path, and society gives you one path, and your environment gives you one path. But the books show you there are way more paths than this, there are hundreds, which is dangerous information to give someone who already overthinks everything. Honestly, reading was one of the first things that made me question the careers that most people get, normal lifestyles, ambition levels, and the normal expectations that people have in today's society. And it really expanded my thinking massively. It also made me become that guy recommending books nobody asked for, which made me stand out, and it made me have some really interesting conversations with people and made me connect to people that were also on a similar path to myself. Now obviously, there's a dark side to all of this too, which applies to both gaming and reading, because both can absolutely become unhealthy escapism. And I think a lot of us know exactly what that feels like, using games, videos, scrolling, and just content in general to avoid your actual life. That's the dangerous version. But I think there's a massive difference between escapism that inspires you and escapism that replaces reality entirely. Some people use fictional worlds to recover, while other people disappear into them permanently. And that's exactly how you end up emotionally living in Skyrim while your real apartment looks like a side quest nobody completed. That's a huge difference, because the best games didn't make me want less from life. They actually made me more inspired and made me want more out of life. Pokemon made me want adventure, and the old Call of Duty games I love to play, they made me obsessed with mastery, with leveling up, with unlocking everything. The best games activate something in you, they don't just numb you. Which is also why the old Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, they somehow build both resilience and psychological damage simultaneously.
Hey, quiet on that side now, isn't it, boy?
I think this is why modern entertainment feels so different now. The old games, they felt really immersive, they were atmospheric, they were seemingly much more intentional. A lot of the modern stuff, It feels like slot machines. You have the infinite scrolling loops on TikTok and Instagram, the infinite amount of stimulation, and just a lot of noise in general. And I honestly think that's what damaged people more than gaming itself. It's the shallow dopamine. Because there is a huge difference between spending 4 hours immersed in a meaningful world versus spending 4 hours doom-scrolling fragmented garbage online. One expands your imagination, the other slowly destroys your attention span. One leaves you inspired, while the other leaves you feeling like your brain got microwaved. The older I get, the more grateful I actually am that I grew up with games like this, and also discovered self-improvement books at a fairly young age, because I honestly think they protected part of me. A part that adult life slowly tried to kill, my curiosity, creativity, and my level of ambition and wonder and a sense of imagination. I think a lot of people become numb as adults. They stop exploring, they stop dreaming, they stop imagining bigger lives for themselves. And somewhere along the way they go from, what if life becomes amazing, to, I guess this is fine. Which is in my opinion one of the saddest software updates adulthood tends to install. And weirdly enough, gaming and reading kept that alive in me. Even Neosphere probably didn't exist without that. The storytelling, the atmosphere, the nostalgia, and the psychology, and this self-improvement angle I have combined with gaming, all of that probably traces back to those early experiences. And maybe to spending an unhealthy amount of time indoors, back in 2005. So no, gaming and reading didn't ruin my life. If anything, they shaped it. They gave me imagination and a lot of perspective, as well as allowed me to explore my creativity, my levels of ambition, and my direction in life. The important thing is just making sure that fictional worlds enrich your life, instead of replacing it. Because honestly, I think a lot of people who grew up with gaming, especially the thoughtful people and the introverts out there, they probably have way more potential than they realize. They just need to stop selling themselves as consumers and start building something in the real world too. Because eventually, the real game starts outside the screen, which unfortunately does not have save states.